Meat Lovers by many accounts had rather low expectations entering Pro League, but throughout Split 2, they gradually won the hearts of fans with their innovative and unique approach to the game, as well as their combination of entertaining personalities, insane skill, and feel-good stories. But at the beginning, things weren't so simple. They qualified through Challenger Circuit, finishing 5th place during the Challengers Finals. At the time, they were comprised of Tech, Zainu, and Yubin, and prior to their Pro League debut, a rather controversial decision was made. Meat Lovers decided to drop Yubin for Funk, and this move caused a lot of backlash. It was especially criticized because both Zainu and Funk essentially had zero pro-level experience, which made the upcoming task that much more daunting. But Meat Lovers quickly shushed the doubters and took the region by storm.
Coming through. Ready to fight this. Where are they? On the rock, on top of the rock. Don't die. There's 2 teams on here. Here. There's 2 teams. Come here, falling. Taking your portal. One shot, kill. Crack, no, fight this. Crack this. I hit the choke off. Go now. Nice. A lot of fights going on here. Land right here. Right here. Get ready to fight down here. Ready on my feet. Let's go now. Let's go on the far right side on the edge of storm. Behind! Edge of storm, we're gonna have 3 kills here. 3 kills. Oh my god, 3 fucking kills. Don't die here. Yeah. Take his kill. Nice love. Behind you. Right here, left lane. Cat. No.
From above, what a play, giving no quarter. TSM, can I get you some extra meat?
That said, despite their best efforts and overall exceeding expectations, Meat Lovers had raised the bar for themselves. They seemed on track to qualify for LAN, but failed to do so near the end of the season. Welcome back to The Reset, where today we will be examining why Meat Lovers, despite their hot start, failed to qualify for the Split 2 playoffs LAN in London. But first, if you enjoy ALGS content, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me over on Twitter and Twitch, and I have made a Patreon, so if you want to find out ways to support me even further, links are in the description. To properly understand the story of Meat Lovers, one has to understand the story of their IGL, Tech. Tech first broke into the ALGS scene in the early part of 2020. Previously, he was just a ranked player playing with his friends, and they decided to compete in ALGS Online Tournament number 3. They managed to make the finals lobby, and that success is what Tech credits as the initial spark that drove his passion for competitive Apex. Over the years, Tech would bounce around from roster to roster, but he got his first big break in ALGS 2021's Split 1 after being signed to Furia. Though during his time with Furia, they were a rather mediocre team, finishing between 14th and 15th in each ALGS event they partook in. And eventually his time with the org would come to an end as they dropped him, picked up his Watson, and the rest was history. So then Tech moved on to a coaching role for Sentinels, but that was a sinking ship that even someone as smart as Tech couldn't save, as only 2 months later the underperforming roster was eventually let go as Sentinels were looking for far better results. And that finally leads us to the subject of today's video, Meat Lovers. Tech recently posted a twitlonger venting his frustrations that we will get into later, but in it he did address the dropping of Yubin and stated that he knew that they would be a rather mediocre roster, and adding Funk gave them the spark to potentially be a roster that could achieve greatness. And they almost did just that. Following week 6, Meat Lovers were placed 3rd overall in the entirety of North America. 2 weeks later, with only the last match day and regional finals to go, they still sat in 7th. And then heading into the regional finals, they were still in 9th. Once again, 11 teams were qualifying for LAN through North America. Following the regional finals, they fell down to being tied for 12th, narrowly missing out on LAN by just 2 points. And to find out why, we start with problem number 1. To put it plainly, meat lovers were very bad on World's Edge. On Stormpoint, they averaged the 4th most points per game in the region, behind only Xset, Optic, and Dark Zero. That's elite company. But on World's Edge, they averaged the 21st most points per game. This is a stark contrast between the two maps that was a pretty obvious issue because it forced them into a situation where they had to have a strong day on Stormpoint no matter what, because their World's Edge games were usually going to be pretty disappointing. For further context of how bad it was for meat lovers, they only ever made it to a top 5 on World's Edge once. They had 9 games on World's Edge out of a possible 22 where they scored 2 points or less. Their best game ever on World's Edge was their first game of the entire split where they picked up only 10 points. But to understand why they were failing at it, we need to discuss what they were good at first. On both maps, meat lovers had a flex drop strategy. This means that depending on who was in the lobby, they would drop to a specific POI. On Stormpoint versus Group B, they would drop to Cascades since Xset was not in the lobby. And against Group C, they would go to Checkpoint since NRG was not in the lobby. So they have 2 of the strongest POIs on Stormpoint that allow for both flexibility in playstyle. On World's Edge, they have a similar drop strategy, but it is not nearly as flexible. Essentially, when DZ is in the lobby, they would take Frag East, and when DZ was not in the lobby, they would take Frag West. I'm a big proponent that Fragment, when split, is a pretty poor POI regardless of which side you take, although Frag West is the better of the two. Frag East has pretty poor loot, and it is center of the map, so you'd expect teams here to play zone. But the ring console spawn rate is near 50%, which means it's about a flip of a coin if you're even gonna get it. Anyway, the ring console was irrelevant to meat lovers because they would run a legend comp of Crypto Maggie Wraith. I'm a fan of this comp personally, as it's really strong at this sort of blitz siege strategy where you move in fast and siege any team that is holding down a specific area, and it's really good for trying to bully zone teams out of their spots to take it for themselves. The issue was that meat lovers didn't always get to implement this strategy effectively. Let's take a look at a few examples. This is match day 4, game number 1. The zone is going to be pulling towards Thermal Station. The weakness of Frag East loot is on full display as they are leaving with triple white armors. Also, because they land Frag East, they have no ability to craft, as Frag West has the crafter, and on rotation it's going to be difficult too. They essentially have to go to Harvester, Landslide, or Epicenter to craft on their natural rotations. Otherwise, they need to go way out of their way, regardless of where the circle pulls, to get a crafter. But then at that point, why are you even landing Frag East? Anyway, on rotation here, Harvester does not have a crafter, and neither does Siphon, so they can't even go really out of their way to go get one. So they rotate decently well, but if they were playing this like a zone team as their POI would dictate, they would have used a controller character to scan the ring console at Fragment, then utilize most likely a Valk ult to get them into Thermal much quicker, and probably claimed a better spot than what they got. To me, the only way to effectively play out of Frag East is the way that Moist showed off at the previous LAN. Rotate before anybody in the lobby. Frag East has basically one singular strength: central location. So Moist played in a way that activated that strength. Meat lovers aren't able to do that as they get sort of stuck here on this cliffside above the tunnel outside of Thermal. Now, eventually they are able to pull off a beautiful fight where we see the power of Crypto Wraith come into play.
Wanna go for a power play? Yep. Right now? Yep. Get ready, Zion. Get ready to make a play here.
Yeah.
We're fighting. Get ready. Get ready to the right. I'm gonna set you up with an EMP.
I'm on it. Let me know if I can take it, Funk.
Make a good portal. Hit all three, hit all three, hit all three.
Let's get it, come through.
Coming.
I'm coming through.
Back
Get
out.
ready to fight this, get ready to fight this.
Where are they?
We're on the rock, on top of the rock.
Bang one.
I know. I'm gonna watch Kai here in a second, okay?
It was a super clean win, and it was only possible because of their comp. The Crypto Wraith play made that fight a win. That said, the Crypto ult is only essentially evening the playing field for them. Imagine that they had landed at a better POI to give them better loot, and then still pulled off this same strategy against teams with similar levels of loot. Instead of going up against them with triple blues and they have triple purple, purples. If you both have triple purples, then the crypto ult is giving you an advantage rather than evening the playing field. Anyway, their goal is to rotate early, use their really aggressive comp and 2 cracked controller players, plus the crypto wraith combo to bully zone teams. But I think that Frag East is significantly hindering this possibility, as once again in this game they got stalled out on the edge and eventually were just having to play edge anyway and fight the edge teams with their triple blues. We'll get into this game a little bit more later, but I do want to address the fact that they also landed Frag West at points during this split, so let's show a game from there. We jump over to game number 3 from day 2, and this is the same game from my Sentinels video where the circle is pulling towards Mirage Voyage and Zainu and Funk kill Rambo off drop. Anyway, the loot is slightly better this time as they leave with triple blues and they are able to craft it landslide afterwards. But once again, they reach a point where they get stuck out on the edge of ring 2 or 3 and they eventually die. Whether it's dying while rotating in or dying as another team is rotating towards them, they had this issue a lot. Once again, they only made 1 top 5 appearance throughout the entirety of World's Edge, but what I didn't tell you earlier is that they managed to get to the top 10 about half of their games. So clearly the issue was this repeated dying in the mid game. Now here's what I personally would do to change these issues. World's Edge, I believe, is a map that requires commitment. Flexibility is only possible when the zone blesses you or you have a POI like Lava Siphon that is kind of OP. Otherwise, I think you need to hard commit to a playstyle that suits your POI or swap to a POI that suits your playstyle. To further explain what I mean by this, on World's Edge, I think there is a big 5 of POIs. Those being SkyWest Trials, Climatizer, Thermal Station, Big Mod and Lava City, now known as Stacks, and Lava Siphon. 4 of these 5 POIs favor an edge playstyle, Lava Siphon being the only one that really favors a zone playstyle. All the rest of the POIs on this map pale in comparison. Some of them do have strengths, but for the most part, if you're going to play any other POI on this map, you need to be playing a zone playstyle for the most part. There are exceptions to this rule, but those are few and far between. So this means for meat lovers that I think they need to commit to a hard zone playstyle based on the POIs that they were landing at, or swap to a different POI that would give them better loot and flexibility in regards to how they play the game. As the stats showed, meat lovers lacked any sort of consistency on World's Edge, and I think that having that commitment to a specific playstyle and your POI fitting that playstyle would have given them that consistency. Anyway, I cut off those games early because the following moments illustrates problem number 2. I cannot believe how many times there were that comms got cluttered for this squad. Now, this communication was not toxic like we've seen with some other teams. In fact, most of the comms weren't even bad. A lot of the things that are said are good comms. The issue was the sheer amount of talking, specifically from Funk and Zainu. Tech is the IGL and is playing crypto. Notice anything about other teams that we've covered that have an IGL crypto? That IGL is given ample amount of space to calm as much as possible because with crypto you have near perfect information. I mean, you can literally fly around for free and see what every single team around you is doing. That information is amazing, and your IGL needs both the space to think and then the space to relay the plan to the team. Funk and Zainu are both new to comp, so I will give them both a little bit of a break for this, as I think inexperience plays a factor here. Also, Tech is not a loud, overbearing personality that will control comps through sheer force. That said, I do think there needed to be some sort of improvement in this regard. Let's go back to the game I showed at Thermal, and I want you to watch how they approach this fight and then listen for the comms when they start to die.
80 on ball, 80 on ball.
Okay,
Which team?
The original play I wanted to do.
What do you want me to pull from? Right here?
Yeah, just run it. See right there?
This team's
I'm gonna run it from Zainu.
These teams are fighting in my ping. You're gonna be fine.
You're gonna pull right here, okay? My ping. I'm gonna kill this team.
These teams are fighting too.
Right now?
Hey, yes.
All right, ready, Zainu? Let's go.
Zainu, listen to play.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Hold on your ping. Hold on your ping right now.
Right here.
You can put it in the little divot, in the little cut.
Just listen to me. I'm about to EMP right here.
Not safe right there. All right, save on me. Save on me.
It is.
Taking it.
Save on me.
Good EMP.
I'm gonna swing this.
I need to take TP.
Running back.
Balling,
Swing this
go.
kid.
Ball it, fight it.
Got that.
Nice. I'm not with. Clear life.
Face down. Play slow. Wait for
Play
tech.
slow. We have knocks here. Play slow.
Crouching in them. I'm crouched in the corner. Tech, we're both
You're
crouched in the corner.
not in there. Push forward, push forward. Can we push forward on this? Push
Keep
forward,
Yeah,
push
I'm
forward.
climbing,
Come
look
here,
at my
come
back.
here, come here. We're safe
No
here,
tech,
we're
no
safe,
tech.
we're safe.
Alright, I'm
We're
coming.
safe. Come to me.
Yeah, I'm
Mark
coming,
the
I'm coming.
I'm fine, Tech.
Come here, Zainu.
You gotta res that.
Just
You gotta res
run in,
that.
run in, Funk.
I can't. I'm gonna wait
Are
for
they
my
all
face.
tech?
You over.
On the height.
No,
I'm
Funk.
hiding. I couldn't.
Funk and Zainu do a really good job calming to play slow, but then Tech says that they aren't in the zone where they're sitting. Rather than waiting for the calm of how to fix this immediate problem that he has addressed, Zainu and Funk decide to spring into action, start yelling a bunch of things as they do, and leave the spot that they're holding despite having an advantage over the team that they just got a knock onto. Meanwhile, Tech is yelling to push forward while Zainu and Funk are leaving, and as Zainu tries to go back to Tech, this causes him to get knocked from TSM on the ultimate height. Funk gets cracked and has to use a bat, and this delays his ability to help his teammates. And then eventually Tech dies as a team drops on him while he tries to res Zainu. Here's another clip from Storm Point where, well, I'll let you see it first.
Should bangle, and then we start working height, okay?
Really good smoke, really good smoke. I'm gonna start doing it now, okay?
Okay.
Don't get put on scan.
Can you throw a
They're
bangle?
that close. Yeah, I'm doing it now, Batting.
Lock it up though. We're safe on me though.
We need to just fight and take their height. Okay, ready? I'm gonna EMP right
I'm trying
now.
to force the aggro.
Go.
Yes. Tone height. You have a good bangle.
I got it, and shit on them. Got it again.
I'm just cracked. Where's my drone? Nice. I can't cancel and I don't have drone.
Play slow. He's flying up. Are they resing?
I'm coming,
I
Funk.
think they're getting aped.
They're playing
No,
on the
they're
backside
not.
here.
We need to get aggro,
They're
though.
playing on the backside here.
Take height. Can we take height?
Yeah.
No, not really.
I'm crouching right now.
You can take in with Funk. Play in with Funk.
I'm getting inside.
I just threw, bro. I tried to get up to the height.
Sonic, can we do this?
Funk. They're getting
Where are they?
Funk.
Where are they?
Might be able to
Where are
res
they?
them.
Trying to get height.
We can res them bottom forward. No, we
Keep
can't.
my resing on me.
Another team. That's another team. No, call my side.
Smoke here.
Love right inside.
They're resing now.
Play back.
I'm gonna res him out of zero.
Coming back. We're good on me. Come to me. I'm gonna drop you my armor, Funk. Come here. Funk. Come here, Funk. Take my armor.
I'm healing.
Chill here. Watch her walk up, please. Watch her walk up.
Nice, get smoke.
Chill. And crack. No, fight this.
We're fine. Back up.
Knock one. Fight it, please.
Clip one. Fight it.
Get over here. Fight it.
I'm doing it.
Come on, Tech.
Play my life.
Pull my knock.
Crack. I need the show pop.
Grab the other one.
Give me a show pop right here. Res, please.
Shit, they're here.
Play my knock.
Bring him back.
Well,
fighting.
Dropping. Straight here, drop.
Current player life.
Swinging you. One swinging.
Good try.
I
That's
threw
okay.
with
That's
the
good,
fly.
bro.
I went for a play and then just fucked.
Alright, so the plan was to take height, and then as they claim the inside of the building, Tech asks, can we take height? Zainu says no, play inside on Funk. Meanwhile, Funk is still carrying out the initial plan despite Zainu saying no. Funk gets knocked, and because of this, then they have to res him on the low ground and stabilize on the low ground. Tech makes a good calm to watch the walk up, and Zainu ends up delaying the push from tripods, but then he backs up to heal, and not only calming that he is healing, he starts calming how the team should play, stating, we need to back up. Tech is saying, fight, while Zainu is saying, we are fine, back up. Eventually, Zainu does listen to his IGL and fights, and they actually end up wiping tripods here. I have no clue how tripods lost this fight, but it is what it is. But all of this roots back to Funk ignoring the change of plans on height. Had he simply listened and the comms had been a little bit more potentially clear, they're sitting inside the middle floor of that building, totally fine. And then they can use the crypto drone to reevaluate the situation. Also, regardless of the fact that Zainu is healing there is a smart decision, there needs to be a clear pecking order of comms because mid-fight, it's just unacceptable having one player yelling to fight and another player yelling to back up. That just can't happen. Ultimately, there are some cases where communication style just works for this specific team, regardless of how it sounds to others. Tech specifically mentioned this on the Wide Swing podcast.
For me personally, this is just a me issue. I do not like having quiet teammates because when we're fighting, my teammates will tell me something and it'll go in one ear and out the other. So like I need to have loud teammates that like yell shit at me, or else like I won't process it and fight, and then we'll misplay.
And I know that I've had friends who will hop in a call and there are like 3 different conversations all happening at the same time, and yet they somehow all filter out the irrelevant information naturally. But in a comp setting, if your brain is naturally filtering out any comms because you are so used to a lot of things being repeated or unimportant information being stated, then you might miss important moments such as this. Anyway, as we've established, World's Edge was a problem. At times communication was a problem, as well as inexperience, but despite this, they were still on pace to qualify for LAN, which leads us to the final problem for meat lovers. Regional finals took place on Sunday, May 7th. The roster lock for the split, including the upcoming LAN, was on May 2nd. On May 2nd, 5 days before regional finals, which would have been the last day for teams to qualify for LAN, Zainu was poached by Dark Zero. Sharky had retired earlier in the split, DZ picked up Rambo to fill the void, and reportedly had told him that they would be trying out other players before LAN.
But roster lock changed, so the entire plan, the entire split after Sharky just decided to fucking leave and quit the game forever, was to play with Bo for the rest of the split, and then trial people when we have time in a 2-month break after LAN, and see what the fuck's going on.
Didn't you just say after LAN though? And aren't
Yes.
you trialing people before LAN?
Are you fuck? Oh my god!
After
Zach,
Pro
be
League,
quiet,
after
all
Pro
right?
League,
Oh.
they were gonna trial
After
people.
Pro League, but they changed roster lock to fucking Tuesday for a LAN that is 75 days away.
Did Rambo
So
know
this
that
is-
the whole time?
I mean, PvP communicated to him many times that it was a trial period until regionals end.
DZ reportedly tried out both Funk and Zainu, as well as Aiden from Glitch Energy, and asked for Shubi from Wildcard, but he declined. Here is Dark Zero's coach on the matter.
But essentially, it landed on us with getting Zainu. He was not signed to an org, and we knew that he was the right player for us. What we said was that we were going to be completely open with everyone involved. Like anyone we had talked to, they were going to inform whoever, blah blah blah. And Zainu had already, he talked to Tech, and Tech knew the likelihood of either Zainu or Funk leaving was 100%. He knew, because he already knew that I think Zero was gonna trial them in Timmy scrims. They played 3 games with Zainu, 3 games with Funk. Problem is, the whole situation is just like, it's just so bad, because I mean, being able to like have rosters switch players in the middle of like Pro League it's questionable for sure. But like, if we're in a position where one of our teammates quits the game, like, where are we supposed to approach this talent for our roster that we are trying to win a championship with? Like, we're going across the world to play at a multi-million-dollar LAN, going into champs as well. Who are we supposed to pick up? It's just tough. It's like I have full sympathy for Tech. Like, I've teamed with them in the past, and I respect them a lot. But it's a very tough position to be in.
And here are Tech's thoughts.
What would you have done if DZ waited till last minute to lock in Zainu? I mean, I told Zainu, I was like, bro. I told Zainu, I was like, I need an answer, like, tonight by 12 p.m., 12 o'clock tonight. And if I don't get an answer, I'm finding someone else. So it didn't really matter if they waited until the minute before or not. But, I mean, I ended up falling asleep because I just got sick of fucking waiting for PvP. For Zainu. It wasn't really Zainu's fault, it was PvP. Honestly, it's fucking PvP's fault in my opinion. Message PvP and I said, so you're taking Mr. Zainu or what? At 11:30 p.m. the night before roster lock, and he said nothing. He never replied. Still has never said anything to me. He's like, hey, sorry, kind of fucked you over, but I know you understand it's business. Blah 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 blah. But I never got anything from PvP. He never replied to me. He never said, hey, we're leaning towards Zainu, we're leaning towards Funk. At least it gave me an idea of like, okay, if they're gonna take Funk, this is the type of player I need to find. If they're gonna take Zainu, this is the type of player I need to find. But he just didn't say shit. He just straight up ignored my message. I would have appreciated a response, like literally anything. And like, yeah, we're leaning towards Zainu, so if you want to start looking for a player to replace him and what he does for the team, then great. I would have been like, okay, cool. I just wanted to know which one they're gonna take so I can have time. And like, it's just fucking scumbag shit because I had work the next day, bro. I went to bed at like 12 o'clock. I woke up at like 3 or 4 or 2 o'clock. I can't remember. A few hours later, checked my message, and I got a message from Funker Zainu saying that, you know, they picked Zainu. PvP didn't even tell me. I think Funk told me. He's like, yeah, they picked Zainu. Funk messaged me like 4 a.m. was when I woke up, and I was like, okay. So it's like, well, that's that. Zainu's gone. Got confirmation at 4 a.m. Went back to sleep, and had like 3 hours of sleep. Woke up at 7:30. Got ready for work at 9. And, you know, I'm at work by 9 or 10 or whatever. And it's like, okay, I now have about 5 hours to figure out who our third is.
My take, there are 3 entities who can be considered at fault by the public. Zainu himself, Dark Zero as a team, and ALGS as a league. For starters, anyone who's blaming Zainu is flat out wrong. Meat Lovers were an unsigned roster who were attempting to qualify for LAN. Dark Zero are a top 2 team of all time in Apex, one of the only teams to ever win a LAN. I presume that they would be one of the highest paying orgs because of this success, and they also already have LAN secured before regionals. Tech himself said that Zainu would have been foolish to not accept this offer.
It's not even about loyalty. I mean, at the end of the day, bro, like, it is not easy to like make money in Apex as a pro player. Like, the kid's 17 or 16 or 18 or some shit. I think 17. He, you know, is getting a bag from Dark Zero. He'd be an idiot to turn it down. Loyalty doesn't mean shit in this game. If you're loyal and you're giving up big org offers for your team, that's not guaranteed anything. We weren't guaranteed LAN. We weren't guaranteed an org. If you're, you know, loyalty is a great gesture, but if you're in that situation and you're not taking big org offers and guaranteed money, guaranteed LAN, you're an idiot, in my opinion.
So, the next party to look at, obviously, would be Dark Zero as a team. While many might blame them, let's be real. It's not their fault that Sharky retired mid-split. They temporarily picked up Rambo, and according to all parties involved, they were upfront that they would be trying out other options for LAN. But where I can personally blame DZ here is that both PvP and Zero claim the roster lock deadline was changed.
But they changed roster lock to fucking Tuesday for a LAN that is 75 days away.
According to Chris Pfeiffer, the senior manager of League Ops at ALGS, the roster lock date was never changed, and in fact was the Tuesday before regionals last split as well. But regardless, they didn't break any rules, and they did what they believed would make them the best possible team, so I don't really blame them outside of the lack of communication towards tech, which I think would have been preferable. It's a business at the end of the day, so if you intend to take another team's player and that team is asking you questions, I think it would have at least been respectable to offer that team some sort of insight into your decision making, since you hold all the power and they have to find a replacement very quickly, especially considering the power dynamic at play. Rosters signed to orgs with big salaries to offer can essentially poach any unsigned talent they want, as everyone is out here grinding for a chance to make a living in the game. So I think it would have at least been nice for them to communicate to Meat Lovers. Once again, they don't have to, it's not within the rules. They didn't break any rules whatsoever, so I can only really criticize their lack of communication that I think would have at least been respectable, but it is what it is. So ultimately, we turn to the final culprit here, and that is the league themselves. If anyone from the League Ops happens to watch my videos, I understand that you want to allow roster flexibility as close to LAN as possible, but allow me to get on my soapbox temporarily. I think there should be a rule in place that you cannot poach a player on another roster by a certain point midway through the season. If you look at any other esport or even real life sports, there is often a trade deadline about halfway through the year. A roster lock much earlier would also ensure that rosters who are competing at LAN are in fact the rosters who earned that LAN spot. Also, an earlier roster lock would increase the importance of subs that you would need to have on your roster in case of emergency. I do think it's reasonable to allow for a team if someone like in a Sharky situation faction retires midway through the split, you can allow that team to pick up a player who has not competed in ALGS during this split as the replacement, or maybe you can allow for them to poach a sub if the opposing team is okay with it. Overall, I do think there's some things that you'd have to address in the specifics of how this rule is implemented, and I do have a lot of ideas of how to make this rule encapsulate everything that covers all areas of this. But the point being, 5 days before regional finals and about 5 hours before roster lock, Meat Lovers were forced to find a new third. They ended up getting Luxford. They proceeded to fail to qualify for LAN, but I don't blame them or Luxford at all, because I think on such short notice, it's difficult to expect a team on the verge of qualifying to then ball out when all your competitors were able to work this entire season as a unified roster to get to this point, while you're just trying to figure out some of the basic chemistry issues. Tech, following this, put out a tweet longer expressing his frustrations about his career and this recurring theme of players being poached. I'd encourage all of you to read it, but I do want to highlight a few pieces of it. He starts off by stating that he has never felt this much defeat and discouragement from competing in Apex, but ensures that he is not going to make an irrational decision. He then details the list of times that he has put his blood, sweat, and tears into this game and its scene, including playing a crucial role in the rise of many of the talented faces that we know and love today, only to be the one who often got the short end of the stick after taking a risk on players many previously did not want. He finishes off by saying it's hard for him to continue to want to compete when these situations continue to face him, and this is where I just want to say, Tech, if you are watching this, the real ones know the impact you have had on the scene. You are an incredibly talented and innovative player who is changing the way that people view and play this game, and you're also bringing so many cool, unique talents to the highest level of Apex and allowing people to see how good they truly are. And it would truly be a shame if you were ever to stop being a part of the community, whether it's the memes, like I said, the unique talent that you're bringing to the scene, even the rivalries that you've cultivated with other players and teams. You've impacted the scene more than you know, and ultimately the job is not finished. I know that that feeling of disappointment probably hurts a ton, but the feeling of achievement when you finally accomplish making it to LAN will be that much sweeter because of all the hardships you had to go through along the way. Anyway, while Tech may have been able to find innovative ways to use crypto despite the meta changes, if you want to see a video about a team who ended up missing LAN because of the meta changes to crypto, click right here. Also, this is your second reminder to please follow me over on Twitch and Twitter, like the video, and subscribe if you enjoy ALGS content. And once again, I have made a Patreon, so if you want to find out more ways that you can support me even further, links are down in the description.